everyone, it's Andrea and welcome back to my channel. I'm here to close out our week-long creative design team collab where we are focusing on cardstock. As many of you know, it's the close to my heart cardstock Carnival this month. It goes through the end of the month and you can get great savings on cardstock. So we wanted to inspire you with projects that you can make, again, using plain old cardstock. Now I say plain old because we can transform cardstock into something magnificent, and that's exactly what we're going to do here today. Now, one of the things that I love about cardstock, and there's a lot, but this is probably my greatest joy with cardstock, is that you can take cardstock and match any photo. Sometimes with patterned paper, a photo that's got a difficult color palette such as this. This is my friend Gina and I, and we were invited to our friend Jen's tea party at her home. And Jen has a very distinct color palette on her walls, and she just has, dare I say, almost an eclectic taste in artwork, and I adore it. And it did make for some difficult color palette though when it came to the clothes that Gina wore and that I wore and the background. So we are going to make our own layout using cardstock, and it was wonderful because I could pull in just the colors or similar colors to what was in this photo. And so one great way to always go ahead and start with a layout is to look at the colors that are in it and to see what the composition is. Now I had thought initially of doing just stripes of colored cardstock across the layout, and that would have been really nice. But I was perusing my digital art collections by close to my heart, and I found one in the Candid Moments collection. I found a 2-page layout, which I will show you on my Cricut mat and show you what I have pulled together. I'm going to show you how I took this double Candid Moments layout that I brought in from our digital art collection, and I have turned it into a 1-page layout. So I'm going to just go ahead and show you quickly. I have the entire layout selected, and I'm going to ungroup it because I'm going to manipulate some pieces, get rid of some others. I'm focusing mainly on this right page here. And I know right away that I definitely want to get rid of this gray banner here. So I'm just going to, delete that immediately. And the same with this tab. It's not something that I really want in the layout. I also want to get rid of this brown layer right here. So I'm going to click just on the one part. It's just easier to click the bigger heart and then go over, click the smaller one and hit delete. Now I know that I want both of these to be a more raspberry color. So I'm going to go ahead, pick up that little heart there, and I'm going to go over and pick up a raspberry color. The same with this blue. I'm going to hit just the blue part of the heart, and we're going to make that raspberry. I like to change my colors a bit because it helps me to visualize what it is that I want this layout to become. And so I'm just changing up the colors just a bit. I do want to bring in, well, before I do that, I want to downsize this photo. Right now it's set up for a 5x7 photo, and I do want to make this a 4¼ photo. I'm actually going to unlock the proportions here because we're going to just type in what we want, hit enter, and then right here I'm going to type in a 6 over the 7, and I'm going to hit enter. And now I have a 4x6 photo because that's the photo size that we're going to work with. These little banner pieces, I'm going to condense some more. And I'm going to change, actually, I don't want these hearts to be raspberry. I wanted this burst to be raspberry here. I'm going to try to pick up just the burst. That's where I wanted the raspberry. I'm going to make these hearts into like a papaya color. So I just like to change my colors here. And I'm not going to bore you with changing every single color, but you get the idea that I like to see what something is going to become before I actually create it. I like to see what it looks like on the screen before I move it over onto my actual cardstock. So I like to kind of try it on for size. I do want to bring in the word so
happy, the words so and happy, from my one layout to my other. So we're going to bring that in, and I'm also going to bring in this burst. And this burst, we're going to just color that raspberry as well. And I'm going to get rid of this part of the layout. I'm selecting, well, I was trying to select just that part, but apparently we still got some stuff that's grouped here. So let me just go ahead and, I don't know, we're going to just try to get rid of some of this. So I am just selecting it and then hitting my delete button on my keyboard, or I could hit the button right there. This is approximately what I want my layout to look like, and it might change as I go to cut it, what colors go well with the photos that I'm using, but it's just fun to kind of imagine and kind of predict how this layout is going to go just by doing it here on my screen.
We were supposed to have a 12 by 12 base, and I was going to use papaya. And then we were supposed to have an 11 by 11 piece that went on top, and I was going to use peach. But what I decided to do, and this is one of my signature moves, is to just start with a 12 by 12 and put a faux base around. So instead of having another full sheet underneath and wasting another full sheet, I've just cut 1/2 inch strips. So we're going to use those, but I wanted to explain to you why I have a full 12 by 12 sheet here. And one of the things that I want to do is just add some shimmer pen. Just because we're working with cardstock doesn't mean it needs to be all one note. We can definitely jazz it up. And I do have my shimmer brush here. I'm going to make just a little puddle if I can off to the side. Been a while since I used this one, and we're just going to create some splatter. I'm going to bring in my Versamat. I have a little adhesive right down here, and I'm going to put this on top. And honestly, I think that that was a peach shimmer brush that we used, peach with peach. It might have been papaya. It was not labeled, but it was still in the same color family. So use what you have. I do see some silvery specks in the splatter. Now, you might remember that I said we have the border strips. I want to show you in case you've not watched my other videos on this. We're going to use my Barely Art Precision Craft Glue, and I will leave the link to this down below in the video's description. And I'm simply going to go right around the outside here with just a little bit of adhesive. I have 2 solid pieces here, meaning I have not touched, just cut 1/2 inch strips out of a 12 inch piece of paper, and that's going to get lined up on the top. And I have 1 on the bottom. Then you might notice I have 2 pieces here where I've mitered the corner, just snipped off the corners with my scissors, like so. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm going to put those down on the edge, like that. And it's going to form the look of having 2 base pages, but we only have really just the one, and then these little strips glued down on top. And it's just a neat little paper saving technique. And you don't have to gut the bottom piece and, you know, try to save paper. It's just an easy way. So we're using a 12 by 12 and then basically 2 inches, a 2 inch strip, 4 1/2 inch strips to make this outside. Now you might remember this layout had the overlay. So we're going to get that on here as well. Isn't this a beautiful overlay? It's simple, pleasing to the eye, and I've cut it out of some French vanilla cardstock. So we're not going to hit every single point. We're just going to go around the outside, and that will adhere it down quite well. And that is just going to go down as well. Once again, I'm just going to set this aside. So I brought in my Close to My Heart die cutting machine. I have this set to 3D emboss, and I have it about midway. We're going to see how this works. I have my base plate, and I have some banner pieces right here that I've cut out of that Cricut layout that we talked about, and I put them into 2 of our current embossing folders. So I have the honey butter in this floral lace embossing folder, and then I have the black, and I believe this is called Cascading Dots. I don't have the title written down here. These are both currently available. I like the floral lace because this is a tea party that we are attending. And so, let me see. I have an extra cutting mat here with my base. Let's see if I can run this through without any trouble. Might have to tighten it up. I know I'm supposed to have adapter plates here, and I don't have those with me down in my crafting studio. So we're going to just experiment and see what works. And that did, in fact, emboss. So we do have this beautiful little piece right here with some floral lace. So if you're in a pinch and you don't have your adapter, you can go ahead, use your base plate, your embossing folder, and just use the cutting mat. Again, we're midway and we have it set to 3D emboss. And you can tell it just rolls through here oh so simply. And once again, I know it's going to be harder to see on the black, but we have some cascading dots. Just because we're playing with cardstock doesn't mean it has to be one-dimensional. Let's make it fun. Now, one more thing we can do is work on that very last banner piece. So I'm going to flip over my Versamat here, and I'm going to bring in my Dainty Patterns stamp set. I love this little stamp set. It's lots of fun. I have some sapphire ink and my sapphire banner piece, which I'm actually going to use with the lighter side up. I have a little block. So let's go ahead and pull out the stamp that I want to use. Since we have some hearts on our layout, this little stamp right here mimics hearts, in my opinion. So we're just going to put that on. Now I know this block is a little bit too tiny for this stamp, but it's going to work for us. And I'd rather have a tinier one and not have edges. It'll be just fine. So let's go ahead, open up our sapphire ink. We'll ink this up. And I knew it was going to be fine because the actual stamp is bigger than our cardstock. So we're just going to have a little bit of a run over. I'm going to pull this down just a bit so I can line it up. So there we go. And look at that. We have a cute little pattern right here on the edge. We just need to put a couple more little hearts. So we have some embossing. We have some tone-on-tone stamping. And it's all going to add to just making the cardstock look a little fancier than it actually is. We'll flip this back over here. And now it's time to start assembling this little layout. I love that our Cricut or digital art collections, I shouldn't call them Cricut, I use it in Cricut, but other people use them in their digital cutting machines, all different ones, and they work. So our digital art collection, I love how I'm able to just make it really fun with all of these different little techniques. So we're going to have about 3 banner pieces right here. There we go. I'm just laying everything out. I have a lot of big, bold pieces. I've cut the word happy out of French vanilla and its background here, its little offset that was already done for us in the cartridge. I just pulled this in from the left page, and like I said, I'm using the right page, but I love the little title. So I pulled that in and I kept it exactly the size that it came into my Cricut mat. So we're just going to plop this down on here. There we go. So we have our little title. We just want to play with spacing since we're combining elements from the left and right pages of that Cricut cut. I've cut not only one, but I've cut 2 of these raspberry. Oh, they're like bursts. And I love them in raspberry because they remind me so much of Gina's little fascinator. My fascinator was a little bit calmer, so it's harder to see. We're going to line that up. Next, we have a couple of the hearts that I'm going to bring in. And again, I could have embossed these had I wanted to. I've cut these out of papaya. And they have a couple of overlays, which I'm gathering up right now. We have the word "so," which I've cut out as well. There we are. Certainly need some foam tape on those. Wouldn't you agree? And the last thing that I wanted to bring in was my box of little assorted pink heart confetti. This is also still available. It was from, oh, I think this might have been a Valentine's product from a few years back. My little boxes are just a little stiff here. These are some little boxes I got on Amazon. And there we go. I think that some of the colors in here are really going to match well. The purples are a little too purpley, but I think that the different colors of like peach are going to work pretty well. So I'm just going to pull out just some of the colors and throw back the purpley ones. We've got a nice little blend right here. I'm going to lay those down. And we're going to see if either my tweezers or, you know what might work better is my little wax pen. But I'm just going to put a few little dots of glue here and there. This one's getting very bubbly. So 1, 2, and 3. We'll start with those for now. So I'm going to pick this up with my tweezers here. I think those might work better. So we'll put one right about there. One right about there. And then I'm just going to pick up one of these lighter color ones that are off to the side here, the lightest. And there we go. And I think I might even move just a few more up and down the page. Maybe put another little cluster right here. Our layout is totally finished now. I've added lots of those little hearts all around as embellishment. I just love that they are tucked here and there. And they just add to the subtle little details because they're not really bright and bold, but they're there. I told you cardstock did not need to be boring. Cardstock really customizes your layout for any photo that you might encounter, even those with really difficult colors. By adding little touches of embellishment and some splatter, it really makes the cardstock go from, you know, pretty good to a wow project, in my opinion. So don't be afraid to play with different colors of cardstock and see how everything comes together, because this is what happened naturally and organically in this photo. And so I just wanted to compliment what was there. And I think that the colors all work in harmony to make the photo stand out. So thanks for watching, and I hope you're inspired to play with cardstock as well. Remember, links to all of the products used will be down below in this video's description, as well as the link to the playlist so you can watch everybody's cardstock projects here on the Creative Design Team. If you've not yet done so, please hit that subscribe button, as I'd love to have you visit me here more often. Thanks for watching.